So this topic is so important to me, and probably because I'm also a cannabis patient, and so when I entered into the realm, I was broken, my spirit was broken. And so you think about when we are clinicians working with patients in the conventional system, is we're focused on body parts. If we're lucky, we get to mental, emotional health, and rarely do we ever get to spiritual health. And spirituality is the root of cannabis care. So if you think about, right, the plant grows in the ground, it has to get rooted, right, and it's getting nourished and taken care of, and it grows to the light, and it blossoms into this beautiful flower. That's what we're doing with our patients. Our patients are coming in the mud, not feeling good, feeling icky, and they want to grow, and so we are the light for them. And this is where nursing theory can come in. So and my question is, what if we did it a little bit different and focused it on spirituality, connecting with the patient? It's going to make them feel better. It's going to open them up, and then they may be inspired to make a change in their life. So nursing theory that most correlates with this, in my own opinion, there's a ton of nursing theories that are out there. Cannabis Nurses Network is doing an amazing job at providing monthly clinical seminars on nursing theory and how we can look at it. But when I was a nursing student, nursing theory kind of gave me the creeps. I was like, this is so boring, I don't know if I want to do this. But the older I get, and the more I realize the importance of it in the cannabis space, as we push the needle towards legalization, getting this into the conventional system, and being able to educate even those in higher academia. So we need to have a theoretical framework for how we do cannabis nursing. So for me, I learned about Jean Watson's human caring theory from Dr. Clark. She wrote a paper on it in 2016 for the University of Maine, and then she wrote about it in her book. So Jean Watson's theory on human caring is, nursing theory is the bridge between learning new information and applying it to clinical practice to improve patient outcomes. So her main quote is, the essence of nursing is human caring. Caring for the entire human experience. And that's what we do as clinicians. The only thing I tell my nurses is that all you have to do is be nice. That's it. You just have to be nice and connect with the patient. That's all they care about, is being seen and being heard. And so caring theory is a process of involving these 10 curative factors, which involve the 10 Caritas processes. So Caritas means to cherish while caring. Caring and love make up the concept of Caritas, and these are the universals of human caring. She really started the movement, Jean Watson, in 1979, and she has a whole institute of the science of caring, which is amazing. And then we have these amazing 10 Caritas processes that takes a patient on a journey of holding space where they are, a journey of connecting with them, a journey of helping them to ask questions and to process emotion and to process information so they can make a change. And so how do we do this as nurses? We just sit with them and we be with them. And we meet them where they're at. The most important question, and I always ask this to my providers, have you ever thought to ask a patient what's important to them and how they want to live their life? Right? And that's what we need to do as clinicians, really sit with them. It's not about me, it's about them and what they want. So how do we apply these 10 Caritas processes to the art and science of cannabis nursing? That's where the high comes in, right? So that word, everyone hates that word. My mother, we're going to talk about as one of the case studies, blocked me on Facebook, literally, and wrote me out of her will. I got letters. I paid for Boston College and you are a drug dealer now. Very Irish, very Catholic, very scared. And so what I needed to do is I needed to step up to the plate and show her that I'm doing this in a way that makes sense. I was a sick patient on the other side of the bed suffering on over 18 pharmaceuticals. Cannabis saved my life. And so part of when the NCSBN guidelines came out, guess which guideline I clung to? Number 6. The nurse shall not judge their patient. My mother was judging me, right? And we're judging machines, good, bad, neutral. It's part of the human experience. But our roles as nurses is to get beyond that, get beyond our judgments and prejudices and bias. So basically, I look at the word hope. I started my podcast. I'm here to decrease stigma around what it means to feel good and be high. And you think of the H is for hope, I, inspiration, G is for growth, and H is for healing. Hope is the first thing we bring patients as nurses. As we sit with them, spend time with them, engage with them, look at them, hear them, hold their hand. And once they have that hope, They're inspired. And once they're inspired, what are they filled with? Spirit. They're in spirit. And when you're in spirit, it gives you an opportunity to be open. And when you're open, what are you open to? New information, right? And so that's what we do as nurses. We provide them with information when they're in that inspired moment. And once they're inspired, that's when the growth happens. Growing in health, doing something different to achieve that new level of wellness, whatever it may be for them. It's not about me, it's about them. And then healing. Healing isn't the absence of illness or disease. It's doing the best you can with what you have right here, right now. And healing is about functionality. What healing is to me is different for someone else, and that's what we do as nurses, is respect their process. Healing is a process, not a protocol. Protocols are crucial and they're essential. However, we need to be flexible as nurses and remember we're there to care. So 3 stories that demonstrate this, and so each of these case studies is compiled from true but confidential intimate interactions. They've given me permission to share because they've all been on the podcast, as a matter of fact. And basically, they demonstrate that the human Carey has real implications in nursing. So research has concluded that knowing the patient is the most important caring behavior between patients and nurses, and that caring behavior is essential in clinical practice. Cannabis and the caring interaction allow these patients to work through bias, stigmas, judgment, and dissonance around cannabis as medicine so they could use it effectively. So the first one on the left, she's on the left and on the right, is Marta. I met Marta in 2017 when I did a presentation at a hospice center. A social worker called me and said, Marta is dying. They don't know how much longer she has to live. I used to do hospice nursing. And so I met with the family, and the family had bought all kinds of cannabis, met with Marta, sat with her. She was okay with dying. She just wanted to sleep. She just wanted to have a little bit of pain relief so she could spend time with her family. And so we just managed a very simple care plan of CBD in the daytime and THC at night. And her quality of life improved slowly, but I didn't know this. So I was working with the family, we were getting them set up, trying to educate, and basically it was thank you. And when I left, I said to the family, you can contact me, please, if you need anything. But I also, too, understand with hospices, you respect the patient's privacy. I didn't want to be that eager beaver nurse. How's it going? Is it working? Are you getting better? You know what I mean? So you just kind of hold space for the family as well and just let it go. And I didn't know what happened until 5 months later. I got a call from Marta. She was in the oncology office. Sherri, they can't find the cancer anymore. This little Italian lady. So you can imagine the journey we had to go on. It was a spiritual journey from I'm dying to now I'm thriving. And so after Marta's cancer mysteriously went away, we started working with her clinicians to help her wean off of some of the pharmaceuticals. She still takes some pharmaceuticals, but not many. And she is an example of working through these different processes because she thought her life was over. She was in that legacy work, coming to the end of life, and cannabis helped her with some of that existential terror that patients have. And then all of a sudden, the endocannabinoid system kicked in and decided to do what it needed to do. And why was it just low doses? We don't know, right? It wasn't a lot. And so that's a really powerful story for me. And so Marta is over there on the right, standing in a cannabis plant. She went from wheelchair to roaming around a cannabis farm, and she's just doing really well. And Sister Suzanne is another one. So Sister Suzanne is a patient that I was blown away at what happened to her. She was truly experienced medical and pharmaceutical trauma. She had chronic regional pain syndrome. It is a chronic intractable pain patient. She was on multiple pharmaceuticals, including high-dose fentanyl, 400 micrograms of fentanyl every 36 hours. She was 95 pounds and was probably 4'10". She's a very, very frail lady with so much pain. She had an internal neurotransmitter stimulator. She was getting lidocaine infusions, and she literally had no quality of life. And so her son was in the cannabis space and said, hey, you gotta call that green nurse. And so she, basically, not her son, her nephew said, you have to call this green nurse. You know, she'll help you. She talked to her doctor said yes, do medical cannabis. She didn't know what to do. So we had to go on a journey. So you can imagine, right? Cannabis, she had to work through her own stigma and bias. You know, she was a series of these interactions to sorting out spirituality, religion, cannabis. How can I make this work for me? I don't want to be high. I'm still part of the church. And she completely turned into this. She's now back in the church. She's now, you know, engaging with her community. She is now thriving in her garden. She is now living her best life. And basically, she now has a voice for cannabis in the spiritual community. She's like, for all those that are afraid, I said, you know, Sister Suzanne, would you come on the podcast? Because people need to hear that it's okay. And so she came on the podcast, shared her compelling story of healing, and I needed to get my mother. My mother's the last one there. And so I said to, you know, my mom blocked me on Facebook, wrote me out of her will. She sent me letters every month that I put in the freezer. Mom, I love you, but I am thriving. And this is my role now, is to help others thrive. And so at the podcast, at the end, I said, Sister Suzanne, for all of those that are really scared about cannabis and really scared about the religious aspect and about sinning, what would Jesus say about all this cannabis? And she held her finger up at me. She goes, Sherri, Jesus would say, what the frick did it take you so long to use this God-given plant that I created for you? It would be a sin not to use it. I took that clip and I sent it to my mother. And so my mother is the final story here, right? So my mother sent that clip to my mother, and my mother contacted me and said, what's the gateway? I said, topicals. It's a perfect gateway. It's not gonna get into your bloodstream. You know, you're not gonna get high. We'll just start off with 2 ingredients. And it was just MCT oil and CBD isolate. Mixed them up, and so it just made her feel safe. I met her where she was at. Didn't try to push my, you know, I want you to be on this cannabinoid, do this, start breathing this way. Very simple, met her where she was at. Slowly but surely, she opened up her mind and her heart to using whole plant medicine. She's now taking full spectrum CBD. She does a little bit of THC here and there. And the funny part about her doing THC was, I want to try those chocolates. I go, you do ya? I said, well, Mom, just one chocolate. Okay, all right, I'll just do one. Don't take any more, and if you get into trouble, take a little bit of extra CBD. Call me in the morning. Well, she didn't call me. So I was like, So I called her up, and I said, Mom, how did it go? She goes, I didn't listen. I ate 3. And it was wonderful. Oh, Mom, it was wonderful. I don't want to do it all the time. But things were a lot funnier. And then at the end, she also came on my podcast, which is a miracle. She is now a proponent of cannabis. My daughter's a cannabis nurse. And when she came on, I said, Mom, so what has cannabis done for you? She goes, I feel good and I'm not high. What does it mean to feel good and not be high? Well, I'm sleeping better. I'm a little bit nicer. You know, the pains become background noise. I'm not as grumpy. And I'm not so depressed about all my problems. I said, but are you high? No, I feel good. Thank you, Mom. And that's how we take a patient on the journey, meeting them where they're at. They're all different. And so with this presentation, you know, my letter to nurses is be like the weed and keep growing, right? Share those stories, connect with them. It's okay to be you. The art is you. The science is there. The art is how you deliver the care. It's the how and the many different ways to reach patients. So my letter to nurses is in order to move the culture forward, revolutionaries, nurses, have had to use imagination to inspire change. When I teach with my umbrella. I teach on the endocannabinoid system using an umbrella, which you'll see on Monday when we talk about that. Nurses are the game changers when it comes to incorporating cannabis therapies into conventional care. We can bridge that gap because of our knowledge of holistic caring. When nurses guide and support patients, they're more successful in their path, adhere to treatment, adjust dosing, and stay the course rather than giving up. It's that ongoing continuity of care and that connection that you've established right away with them. Nurses are educators, connectors, healers, and case managers, and we bring resources to patients. We're problem solvers. There's a problem, we fix it, because we know how. This is what we've been doing our whole lives, right? And nurses are inspirational to all they touch, incorporating biopsychosocial spiritual aspects of medicine, bringing emotion and spirit, right? Emotion and spirit into healing. And we're leaders. There's 5 million nurses in America. You know, we all have a voice to instigate positive change for communities. We're catalysts, and especially for those whom cannabis has healed. So if cannabis has impacted your life or someone that you love, be like the weed and keep growing and keep sharing it. Your heart is your art. Thank you.